Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Friday, September 20th. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over our NFL game picks. A huge game for a huge weekend. A lot of really great games. In this segment, though, we are going to go over the college football slate. There were 10 games I'm really excited for this weekend out of all of college football. We're going to break down all of them, including a game tonight between two ranked opponents. But before we do that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments, throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Friday, September 20th. But like I was saying, in this segment here, we are going to get into the college football slate. Week 4 is here already. I cannot believe it. There are 10 games I've picked out of every single FBS matchup that I wanted to go over. I thought were very big, important games, or games that had a chance of being upsets. The first one takes place tonight. We have number 24 Illinois traveling to Nebraska to take on the number 22 Cornhuskers. Cornhuskers are favored by 7.5 points right now. This game is going to be a battle between good offense and good defense. The Illinois defense has been very impressive thus far, forcing a lot of turnovers, holding a lot of teams that are subpar, substandard, to around 20 points a game, to which their offense has been able to outscore that. This is a very good Nebraska team, though. Dylan Raiola, doing his whole Patrick Mahomes thing, which, side note, it's a little creepy to me. I'm not a big fan of that there. But Dylan Raiola is doing his thing with Nebraska, and they are ranked number 22 for a reason. This is not going to be an easy game. This is not going to be like Kansas. Dylan Raiola and the Nebraska Cornhuskers are not going to turn the ball over 3 or 4 times to give you a one-possession win. This is going to be a game where you're just simply going to outplay them defensively. That's going to be the most important thing. This is the best defense that the Cornhuskers have gone up against all season, so this is going to be kind of prove-it game for both of these units, for the Illinois defense and for the Nebraska offense. I'm very curious to see how this is going to turn out. In my opinion, though, I think the Nebraska offense is going to be too much for Illinois. It's going to be close. Nebraska favored by 7.5. I think Nebraska pulls this one off 30-20. But this one could easily go the other way. I really do think this is going to be a fun game to watch tonight. Heading into Saturday's action, there's 9 games I want to focus on, and we're going to start off with upset alert as UNC is hosting James Madison. James Madison, one of the premier group of 5 schools in the nation since transferring up to the FBS level. They've been incredibly successful in their first 2 seasons, being ranked in the top 25. They have taken a step back. They lost their coach. They lost a lot of players. They all play at Indiana now. Indiana having itself a solid season. Keep an eye out for them over there. But JMU heading down to UNC with a chance to put a statement win on their season. UNC 3-0 behind the powers of running back Omarion Hampton. And that is where this game is going to hinge. Omarion Hampton's been awesome. This JMU defense, generally stout against the run, has been able to get has been a defense that you've been able to run through a little bit. The offense for JMU has not been very good, especially in the first half. Starting quarterback Alonzo Barnett has been almost seemingly unable to move the ball in the first half of games. The second half for JMU has been much better in both of their first 2 games this season. That being said, it's not good enough. Omarion Hampton is one of the best running backs in the country. He's a guy that I think in this game is going to feast. I think he's going to go for somewhere around 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. And while neither of these teams really have a quarterback, that is going to be a huge difference maker. I think 10.5 on the spread is way too much, but I do think UNC is able to pull this one off, avoid the upset. JMU loses 24-17. Getting to another Virginia school, as Virginia Tech, the Hokies, host the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. This game, I think, is maybe as close to a pick'em as you can get in college football. Virginia Tech and Rutgers, I feel, are kind of mirror images of each other. They're kind of the same team. They both don't have the greatest offenses. Their defense, especially on Rutgers, is going to be the thing that carries them. Kyron, do you have that one offensive player that if they're able to go off, you're going to win the game? For Virginia Tech, that's quarterback Kyron Jones. For Rutgers, that's running back Kyle Monangai. These are both some incredibly explosive athletes that can completely change the game, flip it on its head. But if you look at the defenses, that's where this is going to make a difference. Rutgers' defense has been really solid. Virginia Tech's defense hasn't been as good as you want it to be. They gave up a lot of points to Vanderbilt. They gave up a lot of points to Marshall, although they were able to shut them down. I think this Rutgers team is better than Marshall, probably along the same level as a Vanderbilt team. Virginia Tech favored at 3.5 at home. They did have to play Vandy in Vandy. That's an important distinction there. That Virginia Tech home crowd is a very important factor. They get loud down there in Blacksburg, Virginia. But I think Rutgers is able to come in. Big Ten matchup. Kyle Monangai is going to be able to put this team on its back. Rutgers wins 27-23. Up next, Kansas traveling to West Virginia. Kansas formerly ranked. They've dropped their last 2 games. They turned the ball over way too much. West Virginia favored by 2 points. Both of these teams turn the ball over a lot. Whoever wins the turnover battle in this game is going to win. And I know I sound like a broken record. I say that a lot whenever we talk about Kansas, because Kansas is a team that was ranked in the top 25 for a reason, because they're good. When they don't turn the ball over, they are able to sustain drives. They're able to run effective offense. The fact of the matter is that in the last 2 weeks, they've turned the ball over way too much against solid opponents. Illinois, they turned the ball over way too much and lost by 1 possession. UNLV last week, they turned the ball over way too much, were unable to get a crucial turnover on their end, and they lose by 1 possession. That's been the story of Kansas' season. If they can play clean football, they can win this game. That being said, West Virginia also has a turnover issue. I was talking with a friend about this. They were saying, if there's going to be a game that a pick 6 happens, it's going to be this one. And I'm not bold enough to sit here and say, a pick 6 is going to happen. But he's right. If there is a game that is going to happen, it's going to be this one. I think Kansas pulls off the upset and wins 32-27 on the road. West Virginia is kind of going through a slump right now after giving up a huge lead in the backyard brawl against Pitt last week. Let's see if they can come back. This is going to be a close one. Turnover battle is going to decide this one. Then we have UVA, favored by 3.5 points, taking on Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina has been very, very impressive. The Virginia O-line hasn't been the best. The Coastal Carolina defense, especially their run defense, the Coastal Carolina offense, especially the run offense, has been incredibly impressive. Over 200 yards per game on the ground. Quarterback situation has been just fine. This is going to come down to whether Anthony Colandrea can continue to be that kind of quarterback we've seen out of Virginia. I've been down on Virginia all year. I don't think that's going to stop now. Coastal is a very, very good team, a very good Group of 5 program. They have an outside chance if a couple of those top Group of 5 contenders drop a game or two to sneak into that last Group of 5 spot for the playoffs. It's an outside chance, but they're a team that is in contention for it. I think Coastal pulls off the upset here, winning 30-23. Then we get our second of 4 ranked matchups this week as number 11 USC travels to the Big House to take on number 18 Michigan. Michigan has made a change at quarterback. Alex Orji is in the game now at quarterback. He's a guy that has been the rushing quarterback out of the 2-quarterback system for Michigan. Sharon Moore made that switch after throwing 5 interceptions against Arkansas State. That's not going to fly against any kind of good team. The issue is, Orji has only thrown 7 career passes since he's a junior right now. He's only thrown 7 passes in his whole career. This is not a guy that I think can sustain a passing attack. And against a team like USC, who was able to shut down a rushing attack like LSU, who was able to, play top 10 football, they're ranked 11 in the nation for a reason. We saw what happened the last time Michigan went up against a real team in Texas. They got absolutely destroyed. Got walked out of their own stadium. And I think it's going to happen again. I think USC is going to come in, send a message, say, hey, Michigan, you're done. And I think they lose this game and they fall out of the top 25. USC wins 35-18. Then we get a really interesting one. And this is one of the games I'm actually the most excited for this weekend, as Georgia Tech travels to Louisville to take on the number 19 Cardinals. This game is going to be a lot of fun. Louisville's offense is a powerhouse. It's a machine. They seemingly score every single possession. The issue is they've struggled against the run, specifically against a rushing threat quarterback, and that is Georgia Tech surmised. Haynes King, we saw him do it against Florida State. We saw him do it in week 2, and we saw him to a certain extent do it in their loss to Syracuse. He scored a bunch of touchdowns on the ground. He is a guy that will continue to run the football. That is the big threat with Haynes King, and that is where Louisville has been struggling a little bit. We saw it against Jacksonville State. They weren't able to really slow down their rushing quarterback. Now, the offense was by far more than enough, and I think it's going to be a similar theme in this one, but Georgia Tech is a dangerous team. Don't let them stick around. They are a team that will, in clutch moments, step up. We've seen it time and time again this season, keeping games close, even when it seems like they're far out of it. I think Louisville pulls off the win, but it's going to be a lot too close for comfort. They're favored by 10.5. I think that's way too many points. Louisville wins, but it's going to be close, 39-34. And then the game I'm the most excited for. Number 12, Utah, traveling to number 14, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State favored by 2.5. And the reason I'm excited for this game is because we get Cam Rising. He's expected to play in this one. This is a massive, massive game. Whoever wins this one is going to have a huge leg up on the standings in the Big 12. The winner of this game is going to cement themselves as the favorite in that Big 12. This is a huge, huge game. Again, Cam Rising is the key to this game. That Utah defense is going to do what it needs to do. It always will. That Utah defense is great. Alan Bowman, we've seen be really effective the last couple games in games where Ollie Gordon and that rushing attack just haven't been up to par, haven't been up to snuff, haven't been what we expected out of a guy who was in Heisman talks early in the season. Ollie Gordon hasn't been that kind of super effective guy that we were looking at and expecting him to be. But Alan Bowman has really stepped up to the plate, done a really good job, throwing for over 400 yards last week in a bounce-back effort after an ugly, ugly win against Arkansas. You can't do that against Utah, though. You can't play like you did against Arkansas against Utah because they're not going to let you back in the game. Utah's a team that's not going to make those mistakes. And especially with Cam Rising playing, they're going to have an offense. If Cam Rising plays, they win this game. And I think that's that much of a factor. Easy, point blank, period. I don't think it makes a difference if he doesn't play. That offense isn't going to be good enough. I think reports are that he's supposed to play. I think this game goes to overtime, though. I think Utah wins 31-29 in double overtime. 2 games left I wanted to focus on. The final of the ranked matchups as number 6 Tennessee travels to number 15 Oklahoma in an SEC battle. Tennessee has just been a powerhouse all season long. Their quarterback, Nico Iamaleava, has been near unstoppable, and that's not going to stop tonight. The Oklahoma defense has been beatable, I will say. They've been beatable, and this Tennessee team just kind of looks like it's got everything put together. Tennessee favored by 7.5 on the road. I think they dominate this one, win 41-27. The last game I wanted to cover, number 13 Kansas State travels to BYU. Kansas State favored by 6.5. People are hyping up BYU a lot, but I just saw Kansas State go host Arizona, a team that I thought was really, really good, especially offensively. While BYU might have a better defense, their offense is nowhere near that of Arizona. And Kansas State was able to shut them down and look comfortable doing it. So I have Kansas State winning this one 34-17. But let me know which one of these games you're the most excited for. If there's a game on here that I missed that you are the most excited for, I would love to hear your thoughts on that. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to get into MLB Power Rankings. That's right, our famous Friday MLB Power Rankings, the second to last one. The season is coming up on the end. I think we have 1 or 2 more weeks of Power Rankings before we hit the playoffs. Shohei Ohtani did something special. We'll talk about all of that and more coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.